core of it is this debug draw lines. It draws three-dimensional lines. It projects them on the CPU based off which renderer is active. So if there's an editor renderer. So one of the things is as well is this is all 3D. So I believe I'm going to need to make a 2D version. And the reason I just opened up this transform edit is because debug draw does projection just like this does. Except this, if world space transform edited. So I think I should actually check if the editor renderer is projection or orthographic. And then depending on that, actually I haven't tested this editor in 2D that much. I mostly did it in 3D, so yeah, part of the thing is if this is I believe the editor renderer is only projection, not orthographic. I should actually work on this editor. So I've been saying it's hard to work on this editor if I don't actually have a game to edit. That's why I want to make Pong. Also, the editor here is pretty complicated. It's like 1K lines. Editor renderer. Wait, what? Render, oh, this is implemented in the actual renderer itself. Okay, this is all going to be stuff I'm going to have to actually do later, I think. So if rendering H is defined, it does projection, otherwise it doesn't. So this is technically 2D if you don't have a renderer in here. And I think this point to screen needs to take the aspect ratio into account. Or I think I can just apply it by multiplying the tangent to the field of view. Let's see, point to screen. So this actually isn't updated. I have field of view tangent right here, and I don't have it in this function. So, I wonder if I should just make this a 2D drawing. No. See, I'm gonna need to fix this up. I might actually need to do 3D rendering and everything first before I do all this debug drawing if I want it all to work together. So it might actually be good for me to do, so what I was going to do the 3D rendering is set up this procedural mesh. Generates meshes from distance functions. That might actually be a good thing to do right now. I think I'm going to rename this from debug draw to procedural mesh. I can use use this as a full testing ground for 3D. Everything is set up right. Alright. And actually, I haven't done a programming stream for a few days, so this is like a bit off. Alright, can delete all of this GUI code here. And instead of the GUI here, we'll actually be doing rendering. I feel like we need the GUI as well if we're doing the editor. Or does the editor automatically include the GUI components? I can't remember. Yeah, it includes GUI components. Okay. Alright, I don't think this is going to compile either. So this is part of the other reason I want to work on this. I've had this procedural mesh file sitting here for like a long time, and I don't think it's functional. Like, I am basically positive that this isn't functional. But, yeah, so there's a bunch of things. I kind of want to make this more optimized. Generate. Got distance functions. These will be useful. I can keep using these. But yeah, I'm thinking I might rewrite this. Basically, I don't like how it splits the width and height into chunks. And then it generates one big... Doesn't actually even generate a mesh object. So I feel like I should just generate a single chunk here and take away this whole chunk system. But to begin, I should actually just set up a very simple example. And we don't need a font asset here. So I guess I'm just going to create a rendering component. And I'm going to need a material for it as well. This is actually the time to do a shader. I already have this shader program though for 3D projection, this shader.glsl right here. You know what? Oh my god. I just realized I need to create a folder called shaders because the engine is going to need some shaders to go along with it, and I don't think I'm going to do like shaders in a project. I don't know, that's the thing. Should I do just a shaders folder with all the shaders? I don't know, I think they should be part of examples and things. Oh yeah, and then so before I was doing perspective correction manually here with the 1 divided by depth. This is actually what the W component's for. I completely forgot that this homogeneous coordinate is there for that exact reason. So, yeah. Oh man, I forgot as well. I need to log into ShaderToy for this. I got something cool to show. This is gonna be a bit sidetracked, but I figure this is gonna not be straightforward because we're gonna be doing a ton of stuff today. We're gonna be doing this 3D rendering that gets into shaders, this perspective correction. ShaderToy sometimes leaks my information, so that's why I'm on the camera right now. Hold on one second. Alright, I got something cool to show. So, the other day I was working on this. I gotta go get water in a second, but this is a simple fluid simulation using discrete cosine transform. It's incorrect. It's actually based off this Fourier transform fluid right here. This actually has different visualization than mine. But yeah, you can see, so this one, I wasn't actually completely sure. You can see here, I'm fairly certain the mass conservation doesn't work properly without complex numbers. You can see here that no matter where it's complicated, but basically you can see right here, Rory, the guy who actually created this, this is so cool. He actually came and explained to me, you do need the complex spectrum, although you can get it from the sine and cosine transforms. You have to apply both of them. I believe these transforms are just the making under, except anyways, this paper here he linked is literally on this exact thing. I was blown away at this. So this is working in, this is the amazing thing, first of all, about this Fourier transform and complex and cosine transform fluid, is it actually extends to higher dimensions. You can just apply this same 2D algorithm to 3D and 4D and so on. So anyways, this explains that slit boundary conditions, which is basically what happens at the boundary, the Fourier transform, it says here, the Fourier transform is wrapping around equivalent to regular periodic repetition. So that's why this Fourier transform version loops around perfectly. It is actually a perfectly wrapping simulation. You can actually see here if you repeat it by doing ×4, it's perfectly repeating, which is honestly impressive, like incredible. But there are a ton of times where you want the fluid to be contained in a box like this, for example. So this is what this goes into, is that we show that the slip boundary conditions can be imposed by solving the mass conservation step using cosine and sine transforms. So using a mix of, I actually did an alternative version of this with the sine transform. So I'm guessing if I did both of these together, it would actually give me the proper boundary condition. Anyways, I read the paper a little bit more. Where is it? Can be shown that the discrete Fourier transform of the enlarged volume could be replaced with the discrete sine transform. The DFT the DST of n element field will yield an n element real transform, all elements carrying. And then revalues, so ordering. Similarly, we can construct a discrete cosine transform. Hey, Lodka 8. Lodkas are good. Where is it? Now replace these transforms by a combination of DST and DCT. So it actually explains, where is it? Right here. The first component, the x, is done with a discrete sine transform. So right here, where we do the x horizontal, this would be a sine transform. And then a discrete cosine transform for the y and z dimensions. And then, so the most interesting part that I want to go into is if you read the conclusion, boundary conditions are important. In addition, we export fast solutions. We have shown that to compute a derivative, the discrete sine transform domain can be used while maintaining proper boundaries, requiring no more than a simple scaling of the coefficients. To compute a second derivative, the DC peak domain, using these basic tools, we have shown should be a simple process to apply this approach to a pure sine transform. So basically, adding the extra cosine transform makes this a lot more expensive. But if you can, it says it should be a simple process to apply this to pure sine transform, but yeah, it's so that makes me really want to try and get this sine transform version working without the slips. And I actually noticed this, that the sine transform has proper boundaries. When I was doing this simulation here, and I did it originally without this drifting that removes the lowest frequencies. Where is it? So it's so you can actually see here, this is almost like a solid volume, except for the fact that it's looping around right here. It's so close to doing a full vortex right here, but yeah, there's endless. If you see this line going straight across the center, that hints to me that stuff is seriously broken. But yeah, this makes me, I didn't connect it until I read this paper, but that makes complete sense that if the sine transform doesn't wrap around, that it can simulate no boundary. You can see here though, it is, part of my thing is though, I have a wrapping function right here, so that could also be it. Let me actually try clamp. Oh, am I running all of these? Interestingly enough, it's actually lagging right now, when it wasn't lagging before. I don't know if that's, I'm running multiple things now, or what. But yeah, you can see it's almost like the fluid is coming out of the wall here. Up here, it actually seems to be working fine. You can see the fluid's basically being reflected off the wall. But then there's these areas where it's basically showing up from nowhere. Yeah, so this is something I'm probably going to experiment with more sometime in the future, because I don't know, this seems like it could be really promising. Save this paper. I actually should have, reply to Rory later on. But yeah, that was something I thought was super cool, and I'm just like really into experimenting with, because as far as I can tell, it's very realistic simulation. Anyways, let's get back to this. Let's do a very simple 3D rendering. So we're going to load in a shader. This is going to load a shader using our asset management. Now we're going to create a 3D camera. The component for this is renderer. Actually, I'm not sure if I should set the camera's position or anything first. I wonder if I'll focus on, oh man, there's a bunch of stuff I just gotta fix up. I'm actually thinking I might focus on the editor here, because it'll be so much easier to check out what's actually happening in this 3D environment if I can just go into an editor camera view and look at everything from like a third person. So I'm actually thinking what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna create mesh graphic. I'm just going to create the graphic for being rendered, and then we're going to go into the editor and fix up the editor to view it. And I have not used this in a while, so bear with me. I think this by default gets set to quad mesh, but we'll see. Yeah, it is default set to quad mesh. So we just need to set the material, or we actually need to create a material and set that. And we do that from our shader. Did I actually fix up the material loading yet? Oh yeah, right here. Load material. Okay. All this stuff I'm gonna need to test. I remember though I had a bug in this material code that if the data size was 0, it will try and update it anyways. Data size. So what I need to do here is check if the data is null. If data.size does not equal 0. Okay, yeah, actually, so I was right. Creating a new material should be pretty easy. There's a lot of arguments, but no textures, no data, it's just going to be a checkerboard texture. We're not going to do any face culling. Not do any blending. Actually can't remember what these defines are. Right up here though. Blend mode none, cull face none, depth test less. There we go. Depth right, true. And then geometry triangles. That right here, yeah, geometry triangles is 0. Alright, there we go. So that shouldn't actually do anything by default right here. Not include file rendering all. Oh wait, this just made me test something. Update render main, graphic enable, asset database load. I want to make sure this isn't loading in the same asset twice. Right here, if HV does not equal null hash, hash does not equal. Okay. Yeah, that's good. So I swear there's somewhere here. Render queue initialized. Oh yeah, okay, so it does do this each time. Alright. So yeah, this should be fine. Components. /all. Render is not. Okay, good. This is why I take this a little bit at a time. I forgot that I changed the way this worked. So then what we do here is instead we add a render call. We add this to the render calls. And then in disable, we remove it. So basically now, instead of each component having a render callback, it's up to you to add it manually. The whole reason for me changing that was because there's like, they're really your own. When you're doing the actual game development, you shouldn't be calling render. It should be up to these rendering pipeline and the GUI pipeline to actually call the render calls. So like, the whole idea is barely any components are using the callback, so it's not worth wasting this data for something that's barely used. And like each time a component is created and disabled, it checks if the render callback is there. So that's actually an improvement in optimization. Blend none undeclared identifier. Error compiling vertex shader, no value specified for layout qualifier std140. No value specified. Oh wait, do I have an empty No, there, right there. Hold on a second, wait. Is this because I changed from 3.3 to 3.2? An OpenGL version. Let me see, OpenGL 3.3. Error compiling, no value specified. No, it's not that. Oh man, okay. So this is changing how I can use these structures in the uniform blocks. Oh, there we go. That's so weird. Oh my god. Is this a bug between... Oh shit, I actually might need to go and put this on my other laptop. If this is one of those... Oh my god, this might be one of those issues where this fails on an Intel chip. I remember trying this before and it was failing on my Intel integrated graphics. And I had to do that I had before, like this, to make the transform structure work here. But now I'm on a NVIDIA card and this doesn't work. I need to do this. Oh no. Oh no. I'm actually super tempted to just go and plug this into my other PC right now and check, because oh man, there was a reason I had that there before. And what would be really crappy is if I went and programmed this like this right now, and then it was actually different. Let me see something. Oh, it's because I have version 330 right here. Oh my god, it's because I have version 330. I think. So then this is the other thing. If this works on a NVIDIA card, but doesn't work on an Intel integrated graphics, that's not that big a deal. But the whole thing is, that's what OpenGL is supposed to be good for, is running across all these different devices. Let me see. OpenGL uniform buffer struct instruct. Okay, yeah, so apparently this just works. Uniform block arrays. This feature. Buffer object containing array of structures. I believe they just need to match alignment. Maybe I can do... I don't know. Struct. Now do this. This is literally what I'm asking. Let's explain about halfway done. When using STD, structures will be laid out in buffers. Yep, okay, that's what I thought. That's why I have this laid out in the way I do. I think this actually might be better if I did this as 2 vec4s. Wait, this whole transform can actually just be done as an array of vec4s. So one of the other things I was thinking of doing is adding another vec4 called extra to the transform, and then that would reduce this 340 it would reduce it to 256, which is also a lot nicer number, but it's not that big a deal since this is the max number of objects instanced. 256 would still be really good, and it would give you an extra variable here that you could use for color of objects, for animations. Like I'm definitely going to actually add this in because there's so much stuff you could do with an extra variable per object, or extra vec4. And now this is making me wonder, will this compile on the Intel card? I'm actually thinking I might go and Let me try turning on edit mode first, seeing if this functions. I don't think it will, but... Oh, wait, something is broken. Fine, engine, edit mode. Oh, I removed the editor from this. Oops. Right here, if engine edit mode. What? Wait, what? Oh, I forgot an extra header. Renders another number of component. Okay, I gotta fix some stuff in the editor. But yeah, you know what? I don't need to do this stuff to test it. I am 100% putting this on a USB right now and seeing if it throws up a compiler error on the different PC. Just imagine the alternative if I go to test this on another PC, or like I go to test this on my, like, let's say I go do a bunch of programming over like the next month for this graphics programming, these shaders, and I just expect they work everywhere, and then fuck, I went on the wrong screen. I haven't been sitting on the wrong screen, have I? Imagine basically this doesn't work, and if I test this now, I'll know right away that it doesn't work. But if I go and work on this for a month, and then I go and test it in a month, and then I find out it doesn't work, that's gonna screw me over. Alright. Hold on, I will be right back. So I've been wondering, when I get up for like 5 minutes, do I put up a screen that says be right back in 5 minutes? I swear to God, even though it's just 5 minutes, just having the time where like I'm away from the screen is like better to just have something there. Like this. Something like that. Alright, I'll be right back.
Take it in your heart, heart, heart. Take it in your heart, heart. Take it in your heart. Take it in your heart, heart, heart.
It works. I don't know what was going on before where it wasn't working, but hold on though, I forgot the stick.
When the cards were closing, it was Bobby Grace, and I know that I put it to the right man. He put it back.
Alright, here we go. Wait a minute. I didn't realize there was this empty material block right here. Wait. What? This might be part of my issue. So I think that's one of the things I'm going to do today. I'm going to add an extra variable to these transforms. I might shift this all to vector 4s so that it's better understood. I might take this out of a structure and do it just as an array of vec4s, just because that's so much easier. So also what I'm doing here is you can see I'm inputting a transform like this. I think that's most efficient. That's part of what the structure lets me do. Passing these transforms, I don't know. I think there was a reason there was a reason I did it like that. I can swizzle them together way easier. Anyways, let's just focus on getting this rendered at first. Fix up these oh yeah, because there's custom component options here. I completely forgot. Oh no. Engine editor render calls. So, oh no, so I need a way to check now if an object is, so with this current system, it'll render the editor over whatever is rendered with the engine. And it does that because it can do that because it has separate render calls here that it adds to the engine editor render calls automatically. So basically, if I want to do this properly with the rendering or the GUI right here, I'm going to need to check if this, somehow have a way to check if this renderer is an editor object, and if it is, add it to editor render calls instead. So is there a thing that there's something that signifies whether or not it's an editor object or component? Delete object, there should be editor or object add component right here. So that actually is a method for why I had the render calls, because it allowed me to organize them. I actually don't see how I'm going to fix this unless I go back to having each component have a render callback. So I've got editor render right here, but that's not the same. So this is actually making me think now about, it's even making me question how this editor works. So I designed this editor work with any components, which kind of raises some issues because it assumes you can work with any component or can make a system that just takes in any components. The other thing would be doing something that's more like fixed types, like a tile editor. Yeah, so that's the thing. This system still is the best for just... There's a reason this system's used across multiple engines or this type of format. How would I override this render call? I don't think I can. That's exactly what this lets me do, is override it so that it's called even when paused or whenever. Oh my god, I think I'm going to need to add this render callback just so that I can override it in the renderer here. Well, I don't think it's a giant deal, but... This is a huge issue, so normally I can come up with different approaches to do these things, but right now I literally can't see any other way of overriding this render. Like, any other method of overriding the render calls here with editor render calls would be like, I don't know, like if I created a pointer to like the current render calls, or if I created a boolean that said like this is in the editor enable code right here, and then adds it if it is. So yeah, you know what I could do here? So this is all the thing though. If I'm gonna put in all of this work, alright, so here's what it comes down to though. Adding the render callback here when it's not needed adds a bunch, like not a giant amount, but it adds extra memory, extra stuff that's not needed. Whereas doing it without that would be more work because I'd have to create this system that basically create a shortcut macro or something for adding these render calls. And then that also macro also handles checking if it's in the editor here. So then this will only be a tiny bit slower in the editor, and it'll have absolutely no difference. Hello, BeginBot. So it'll have absolutely no difference in the actual performance. So it's like I can spend a little bit more work to get a little bit more memory and performance, or I can just do the same simpler render callback that I had before. I can't decide! Hello, new people. I'm currently changing the way some of my engine works internally. I used to have this method where each component had a render callback as well as like update, and then that would be called anytime rendering happened. And that also let me do, in the editor here, it let me override the render calls or put them in a different list of calls so that I can actually render the editor over top and after everything else. And then I changed and removed the render callback while forgetting that I was using that to change around what list it was actually added to. So now I'm going through and figuring out how I can change it to not have a built-in render callback, but still add the render calls to a different list when it's in the editor. Man, I was not expecting to have to deal with this, but I'm pretty sure I figured it out. Instead of doing this each time manually to add a render call, what I'll do is create a macro, I believe in editor header, or I'm not sure actually where I want to make this. Put a macro. See, that's the difficult thing. It needs to be like, if I'm having a macro that does this, you can't do if statements in a macro. Or sorry, you can't do if defines in a macro. You need to have it before and then define a different macro. And the other thing I'm asking is all this work really worth just saving a little bit of memory on having a render callback? Let me see what this GUI is doing. This is the same type of code.
So it was told on the first day
Do I have?
of the first year.
No? Okay. So yeah, I think I might just do a render callback.
Star was born.
Let me, you know what? This is actually, I'm justifying it with a bit of more extra memory here. Let's calculate some alignments. Let's calculate some pointer alignments. This might not even save space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, it's definitely going to save space because it's all automatically going to be aligned. Yeah, screw it. We're doing the old method. We are doing the old method. Because there's barely any optimization to be gained here, and a hell of a lot of cleanliness and ease of use. So I'm just copying this code over here that actually has the old code before I changed it. I'm copying over and converting it here back to what I already deleted. This is why you don't make changes without testing it across a giant number of or this is why you don't change a core part of your engine just out of nowhere. Oh, yeah, okay. There are also macros here that help create functions. And if they aren't the right size, shit is messed up. I'm actually surprised. Did that throw an error there? Okay, so it just threw an error that it couldn't convert. There's another one of these somewhere though. Where is it? Might also be one in the editor. This one is more. Yeah, right here. I'm blind. Boom, there we go, it works. Okay. Except it's still going to be broken because of the way this works. So we're just gonna hold undo, and we're just gonna undo all of these changes, except for the copyright notice. So now it goes back to using this render callback. So this way it'll work properly in the other. I need to close a bunch of these files. I've got way too many files open now. Alright. So now I need to go back, change this and the other things that I changed. So this just turns into GUI render now, instead of having these enable and disable functions. Oh, boom, there we go. Okay. That's interesting. Something is changed about this. I changed the text rendering a little bit, and apparently it completely changed the text offset of the buttons. They're now off to the side. I'm gonna need to fix that. But anyways, here's the visual editor. You can kind of see what it does even though the text is cut off. You can edit the object, you can add components. This is our component that we... Oh shit, it's completely cut off right there. Did I... When did I break this? I wonder, because I don't think I actually changed much. I thought I just changed this text outline, or... Oh, that's so weird. So the offset actually changes permanently after you write it. I gotta look at fixing that stuff. Anyways, this is why I'm working on the editor. Because there's little things like that that are completely broken. And I know the UI sucks, but the whole idea is that this is supposed to just be, this is how you drag the object around. This, you can see it's actually changing the position of the object. So this is like, if you've ever used Unity or Unreal Engine or any other engine, the idea is to hopefully be able to do most of the same things you can do in that. Reverse the object hierarchy, drag objects around in screen or world space, basically edit their transform, and edit component values. So the thing that has... So right now, one of the things I'm noticing is the text size for this is like so big it barely fits anything, and I used to have this text size smaller. So I changed the text rendering, and you can obviously tell that now things are cut off and they're way too big. They're sized larger. Yeah. That's stuff to fix, but that's why we're doing this right now. I think the first thing I'm going to do is something really simple, just try and fix up this rendering again, so that it's not cutting off the text in all the places. I'm so curious why that's happening, because I'm wondering if it's this right here where it actually it's supposed to center. Oh, look at that. It actually is broken. Okay. So there's an issue. When you resize the text, when the text field automatically changes, like if you set it to a really big number like this, and then you click on something else, so it goes basically like it writes the value, or it parses the value from the text, and then it writes it back out as a number right here. It doesn't reset the, now it's changed to an exponent. It doesn't reset the cursor highlight. So that is something I'm gonna have to do. And then there's this. Whatever is happening here, I feel like this whole thing right here, I would say this whole thing right here is cutting off, except it's not. These aren't lined up. So there's just something right here where it's cutting off the text. We'll figure that out. Either way, if you just saw right before this, there was a nice big thing of compiler errors, so I'm just really happy this is compiling and still working right here. Because I have not been testing this. I have made a whole bunch of changes to this, and I just never tested them. Like, a huge one is I changed from OpenGL version 3.3 to 3.2 because I'm using the compatibility profile anyways to use a whole bunch of the 3.2 features, and 3.2 is supported way more on Linux and other things than, like 3.2 has way more support than 3.3, supported on way more graphics cards and old things like that, but you don't really gain much from going to 3.3, so that's why I'm choosing 3.2, but it did change a bunch of little things like what version of shaders I can use, and that changed a bunch of little things I didn't expect, like how I can use structures here. So yeah, this is one of those things that's like a never-ending project. As I fix one thing, it'll break more. Let me see, right here, where it updates the text positioning, I need to make this called anytime. This should just be called anytime the update text is actually called. So there, actually, I think I should have a GUI text field update text, and then it calls this as well as on change. That's how I think it should work. And then what I think is happening with the other things is the offset X is messing with it. We'll see. GUI text field update text. Now, what I'm doing before is I'm just calling GUI text update text in this engine editor when those fields are changed. So what it does is it leaves this offset where it offsets the text as you write it so that it stays in view. So this way, when you update it, it should update the offset. It'll also call this onChange function, which I didn't even realize wouldn't be called, but that is actually an important thing as well. Because imagine if the text changes and then it doesn't actually call the onChange function, that's kind of an issue. So now, Right here, update target object transform. You can see here it's calling update text on the text field. So what we're changing this to is our new GUI text field update text, like this. And that should be, yeah, in multiple places right here. We're just going to go through and change that. And this should be the last one right here. How suiting, the last one is called Finn. Oh shit. Oh no! It runs away! Oh no! Oh god, what is... Okay, there is something seriously broken that I did not account for. First of all, let me make sure these are all actually text fields, right? And text field. Text field. Yeah, okay. So I actually have a way here of changing all of the font size and everything in the editor, all the coloring. So if people do hate, I'm sure they'll hate it. Then they can just switch it. Alright though, now that that works, now we gotta look at the clipping text. Why is this off to the side now? And why is it just these buttons? Why is it not any other text? Why is this cut off? These are the questions. So one of the things I'm looking at as well is there's this document view right here in gedit to the side that I love. It lets you just view like a, I don't know what it is, a faraway shot of the text. It lets you see what all the text is like in an area. It's so nice being able to just see what you're scrolling through in a giant file like this. But one of the things I've been looking at is if I can make it even bigger, because it doesn't actually match up. It's got this is called overview map in gedit, but if you see it doesn't actually match up, like this isn't actually the top of your file. Go through. I was just thinking there would be a way to do that, but I guess there's not. So what I should look at, I believe, is I have a, editor create button call. What I'm guessing is happening is that, sorry, I just knocked my headphones there. What I'm guessing is happening is that since all of these are going through the create button function, right here, they all are offset. Oh, what is this? Anchor none? Wait, what am I doing? No anchoring? Anchoring is defined in graphics, I believe. Hold on, I will be right back shortly. Oops, that's Stack Exchange. Oh shit, okay, I gotta go, but oh my god, I gotta finish. I was thinking about this. What is anchor none? Anchor center is equal to anchor none. Okay, okay, wait. Why? Why is this off to the side if it's being center anchored? Let's try anchor right. It made no difference. In fact, I actually think it made these worse. Huh. These do go through add menu button. Okay, so this is anchored to center. Okay, and changing it makes no difference. Alright, I figured this out. The whole scaling of this is kind of broken. Oh my god, okay. Alright. So I know what I gotta do. I gotta resize those whole text fields or something like that. Something about the sizing, because the anchoring itself is making no difference, and the anchoring only makes a difference, or the only time the anchoring doesn't make a difference is when the size of the object is smaller than the text can contain. Alright, anyways, thank you for watching. Hopefully be back again in an hour for more of this. We're just going to be fixing up stuff around the engine. Holy shit, I just almost fell out of my chair. So yeah, if you're enjoying that stuff, stop back again. Otherwise, I hope you have a good day. Thank you for watching, wherever you are.